Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Manny B Investing, MBI, and we've got an article for you. We're going to be looking at the introduction to Web3. This was posted by Digital Asset News. Shout out to them, but this is on the ethereum.org webpage. And I thought this is going to be a really neat article to read through. I had a conversation with someone in my personal life about this very topic, and I kind of went through and just gave like a basic kind of like what each one was and what it meant. But let's see what Ethereum has prepared for us in this article here. Let's go ahead and blow this up. Is there a way to get like dark mode? Yeah, much better. All right, let's blow it up a little bit here. Introduction to Web3. Centralization has helped onboard billions of people to the World Wide Web and created the stable, robust infrastructure on which it lives. At the same time, a handful of centralized entities have a strong hold on large swaths of the World Wide Web, unilaterally deciding what should and should not be allowed. This became a really big problem during the last election cycle, where it seemed like the group in power was basically chopping the legs off of any competition to their power, where they were getting people deleted from the internet for saying things that would make them look bad. And then a lot of people believing that swayed the decision of the election, which, I mean, I'm one of those people. When you can delete your competition off of communication platforms, it makes it very difficult for them to compete with you. So, you know, that's what it is. That's why Web3 is so important. Web3 is the answer to this dilemma. Instead of a web monopolized by large technology companies, Web3 embraces decentralization and is being built, operated, and owned by its users. Web3 puts power in the hands of individuals rather than corporations. Before we talk about Web3, let's explore how we got here. So they're going to talk about the early days of the web. Bring back some memories. The early web. Most people think of the web as a continuous pillar of modern life. It was invented and has just existed since. However, the web most of us know today is quite different from originally imagined. To understand this better, it's helpful to break the web's story history into loose periods, Web 1 and 2.0. Web 1.0, read only, from 1990 to 2004. In 1989 at CERN, Geneva, Tim Berners-Lee was busy developing the protocols that would become the World Wide Web. His idea: to create open, decentralized protocols that allowed information sharing from anywhere on Earth. The first inception of Berners-Lee's creation, known as Web 1.0, occurred roughly between 1990 to 2004. Web 1.0 was mainly static websites owned by companies, and there was close to zero interaction between users. Individuals seldom produced content, leading to it being known as read-only web. So, like what I explained to the person in my personal life, Web 1.0 was just visuals, going to a web page, reading information, looking at things, very basic. No way to really interact. All you can do was read. Wasn't even super heavy with the media until later in the Web 0.0 life. So towards the 2000s, when it started to become, there was music, video, although very low quality, it was a thing. So let's take a look at the little diagram, and they have a centralized server that reaches out to users. Boom, very simple. Now, Web 2.0 was read and write, and that exists from 2004 to today. Web 2.0 began in 2004 with the emergence of social media platforms. Instead of a read-only, the web evolved to a read-write. Instead of companies providing content to users, they also began to provide platforms to share user-generated content and engage in user-to-user interaction. And this is kind of not super true because I grew up in, I'm sure you did too. Remember the chat rooms? Remember the chat applications, AIM, IRC servers? So the people on the underground in Web 1.0 kind of got a early glimpse of Web 2.0, and that ran from the late 90s. I would say probably like 1997 through probably like 2005-ish maybe was the kind of rogue that kind of started. That happened before social media because I remember leaving the chats, the IRC servers, and then jumping on Facebook in college. I remember that. So I think they left that out. Probably because it wasn't mainstream. A lot of mainstream people weren't on DALNet or EFNet or any of those IRC channels, and they probably weren't in the AIM chat rooms and stuff like that. ICQ, MSN Messenger, those things. Where do we pick off at? A handful of instead of companies providing content, they also began to provide platforms. As more people came online, a handful of top companies began to control a disproportionate amount of the traffic and value generated on the web. Web 2, and they're talking about like Facebook and Twitter. Web 2.0 also birthed the advertising-driven revenue model. While users could create content, they didn't own it or benefit from its monetization. So they have a little diagram of Web 2.0. They have the more servers owned by basically 3 servers owned by maybe 2 companies. Disney and Apple control a majority of it. Then you have Facebook and Twitter control the massive pie that is the internet, which again it started to really become a problem. It was just annoying in the early days of Web 2.0, but I would say 2013, 2014, I even began to see that there was a serious problem with the internet in the way that it was headed, because it was headed down a path of total government control. And if you look at the Twitter files that were released by Elon Musk, all of the conspiracy theories that people had come up with were accurate. Web 2.0 didn't start out terrible, but it ended terribly. And it's still here, honestly. We're really just now getting into Web 3.0. This stuff's being built right now. So let's get on to Web 3.0. Read, write, own. The premise of Web 3.0 was coined by Ethereum co-founder Gavin Wood shortly after Ethereum launched in 2014. Gavin put into words a solution for a problem that many early crypto adopters felt. The web required too much trust. That is, most of the web that people know and use today relies on trusting a handful of private companies to act in the public's best interest, and they were not. Web 3.0, the diagram is pretty cool. There's no server. There's no central ownership. There's just a computer talking to another computer. What is Web 3? Web 3 has become a catch-all term for the vision of a new, better internet. At its core, Web 3 uses blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs to give power back to the user in the form of ownership. 2020 post on Twitter. Oh, what's this? What is this? Let's click it and see. Web 1, read. Web 2, read, write. Web 3, read, write, own. Nice. And he basically broke that down. The core ideas of Web3. Although it's challenging to provide a rigid definition of what Web3 is, a few core principles guide its creation. Web3 is decentralized. So this is like kind of the law of Web3, because right now, a lot of Web2, the people that own the internet, in Web3, they become almost irrelevant and things start to change. So of course, they don't want that. So their play is one of two: to completely go against Web3 and badmouth it, say that it's terrible, say that it's dangerous, get you to fear it, and hope that a majority of the public believe them. Or they can engage and push forward into Web3, but really be centralized. So pushing this fake Web3, just saying, oh, we're Web3, and providing Web3-like features, but still be completely centralized. So you have to know the principles, the driving core principles behind Web3 in order to understand. So Web3 is decentralized. Instead of large swaths of the internet controlled and owned by centralized entities, ownership gets distributed amongst its builders and users. Web3 is permissionless. Everyone has equal access to participate in Web3, and no one gets excluded. So, the idea of Uniswap is anyone can connect to Uniswap's contracts, interact with it, just like anyone else. But we're starting to learn that there, again, like I just said, there's going to be some corporations that still want to control everything. So they're going to try to sneak into these Web3 companies and add their Web 2.0 controls. And an example of that would be Uniswap. We believe that it was this decentralized exchange for all this time, but we're learning now that they have more power than we believe. They can make it really inconvenient for projects or users. They can block entire countries. They've done it at the ask of governments. So again, we just got to really be careful, and we really have to be the gatekeepers of this stuff. If it's not decentralized, we need to call it out. And that's what I'm doing. Web3 is permissionless. Everyone gets equal access to participate. You don't get to exclude someone because you don't like the things they say. You don't get to exclude someone because of the color of their skin, the way they sound, their gender, or any of those things. Nothing matters. You don't get to exclude. Web3 is for everyone equally. Web3 has native payments. It uses cryptocurrency for spending and sending money online instead of relying on the outdated infrastructure of banks and payment processors like PayPal, where PayPal can allow you to accept and make payments for goods and services online unless you say the wrong thing. Then they block you from the platform and you can't buy things anymore. That's Web 2. That is not Web 3. I don't care what coin PayPal makes. It's not Web 3. It's Web 2 with Web 3 features. They can delete your money. They can control your wallet. They can blacklist you. Web 3 is trustless. It operates using incentives and economic mechanisms instead of relying on trusted third parties. This is very important. Contracts rule, not individuals or entities pretending to be individuals. Why is Web3 important? Well, if you haven't come to that conclusion at this point, maybe there's something wrong with you. Why is Web3 important? Although Web3's killer features aren't isolated and don't fit into neat categories, for simplicity, we're tried to separate them to make them easier to understand. Ownership. Web3 gives you ownership of your digital assets in an unprecedented way. For example, say you're playing a Web 2 game. If you purchase an in-game item, it's tied directly to your account. This is the example I use with a person in my personal life. If the game creator deletes your account, you lose those items. Or if you stop playing the game, you lose the value you invested into your in-game items. So there's no ownership there. Everything you buy, even when you spend real money, NBA 2K, you buy the VC, you pay real money for it. You don't get to own that character. You don't own the IP, and they can kick and ban you if you don't follow their rules, and they can take your account away and delete it if they want to. That is not Web3. That's Web 2 with Web3 features. Know the difference. Web3 allows for direct ownership through non-fungible tokens or NFTs. So NFTs are not just pictures. They could be any and everything. No one, not even the game's creator, has the power to take away your ownership. And if you stop playing, you can sell or trade your in-game items on an open market to recoup their value. So say, for example, a decentralized NBA 2K. Would it be super cool that the money that you've invested in your player is retained in that player? And if you go, you know what, I'm moving on from this, I don't want to play this anymore, you can go into an open marketplace and maybe get some of that money back, or all of it, or even more, depending on the market. But you can sell that progress. It's not owned by 2K. Censorship resistance, and this is a really big one here. The power dynamic between platforms and content creators is massively imbalanced, and I know this personally. OnlyFans is a user-generated adult content site with over 1 million content creators, many of which use the platform as their primary source of income. In August 2021, OnlyFans announced plans to ban sexually explicit content. I remember this. The announcement sparked outrage amongst creators on the platform who felt they were getting robbed of an income on a platform they helped create. After the backlash, the decision got quickly reversed. Despite the creators winning this battle, it highlights a problem for Web 2.0 creators. You lose the reputation and following you accrued if you leave the platform. This is why a lot of content creators spread out. They use YouTube. They use, what's the other one? Rumble. Twitter's now entered the space. Twitter is going to be a place where even I need to probably start considering posting my videos on not just YouTube, but other platforms as well. On Web3, your data lives on the blockchain. When you decide to leave a platform, you can take your reputation with you, plugging it into another interface that more clearly aligns with your values. Web 2.0 requires content creators to trust platforms not to change the rules, but censorship resistance is a native feature of the Web3 platform. And then there's this DAO, or decentralized autonomous organizations. As well as owning your data in Web3, you can own the platform as a collective, using tokens that act like shares in a company. DAOs let you coordinate decentralized ownership of the platform and make decisions about its future. DAOs are defined technically as agreed upon smart contracts that automate decentralized decision-making over a pool of resources or tokens. It could be tokens, it could be a platform itself. Users with tokens vote on how resources get spent, and the code automatically performs the voting outcome. However, people define many Web3 communities as DAOs. These communities all have different levels of decentralization and automation by code. Currently, we are exploring what DAOs are and how they might evolve in the future. I'm not a big fan of DAOs right now. We're in the infancy of them. None of the projects in the Web3 space are a true DAO. That just doesn't exist. There are DAO like features. So there's like some parameters that a DAO can vote on, and even so, there isn't an automatic code switch. A lot of times it's just a decision, and the project has to develop it in that direction or in that that step. What they're talking about is total automation, like it's run without human beings, like just people voting. And then what do we do? What do we change? We change this thing. And when you vote to change it, when the vote clears, it executes the change. Not very many projects are doing that. Identity. Traditionally, you would create an account for every platform you use. For example, you might have a Twitter account, a YouTube account, and a Reddit account. Want to change your display name or profile picture? You have to do it across every account. You can use social sign-ins in some cases, but this presents a familiar problem: censorship. In a single click, these platforms can lock you out of your entire online life. Even worse, many platforms require you to trust them with personal identifying information to create an account. Like I had an issue today with a mobile app that gave me free Bitcoin, and I wanted to take that Bitcoin and just transfer it to my ledger and maybe get it swapped over through CNETA to CBTC and then swapped for IBCT and then staked on Indigo. I couldn't do it. They wanted my driver's license and all this information about me for $10 worth of Bitcoin to transfer it. And I said, keep it. I'm good. No, thank you. Web3 solves these problems by allowing you to control your digital identity with an Ethereum address and ENS profile. Using an Ethereum address provides a single login across platforms that is secure, censorship resistant, and anonymous. I don't really trust Ethereum layer 1 anyways, because it is hacked to pieces all the time. And there's a little link here that lets you do an Ethereum login. I don't know how I feel about that, but they do offer the technology and they're building it and they're working on it. It's not perfect. This is in its infancy, but I can still have an opinion about it, and I don't like it. Native payments. Web 2's payments infrastructure relies on banks and payment processors, excluding people without bank accounts or those who happen to live within the borders of the wrong country. Web 3 uses tokens like ETH to send money directly in the browser and requires no trusted third party. And the same thing for any blockchain: Cardano, ADA, Solana Souls, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, any cryptocurrency, any blockchain. There's a native currency you can send value using wallet addresses. So it's not just Ethereum. This is kind of just a general technology that all the blockchains have. Web3 limitations. So we're going to get into the limitations if I hadn't talked about enough of them already. Despite the numerous benefits of Web3 in its current form, there are still many limitations that the ecosystem must address for it to flourish. Accessibility. Important Web3 features like sign-in with Ethereum are already available for anyone to use at zero cost, but the relative cost of transactions is still prohibitive to many. You think? $10 to transfer money? That's insane. I was looking at my ledger today, and I transferred, I sent Matic to like Polygon, and it was like $10. I was like, oh my gosh. It's just really expensive to use Ethereum. Web3 is less likely to be utilized in less wealthy. Web3 is less likely to be utilized in less wealthy developing nations due to the high transaction fees. On Ethereum, these challenges are being solved through the roadmap and a layer 2 scaling solutions. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layer 2 scaling solutions out there, and there are a lot of other blockchains that don't have scalability issues. The technology is ready, but we need higher levels of adoption on layer 2 to make Web3 accessible to everyone. So they're talking about EVM. I think EVM is amazing. I just do not like layer 1 Ethereum. It's too open. It's got too many bugs. It's too hackable. I mean, it gets hacked nonstop. But again, I still think EVM is here to stay. Ethereum did a great job creating it. Just their layer 1 is just like, whoa, it's scary out there. User experience, the technical barrier to entry to using Web3 is currently too high. Yeah, it is. Users must comprehend security concerns, understand complex technical documentation, and navigate unintuitive user interfaces. Wallet providers, in particular, are working to solve this, but more progress is needed before Web3 gets adopted en masse. Education. Web3 introduces new paradigms that require learning different mental models than the ones used in Web 2. A similar education drive happened as Web 1.0 was gaining popularity in the late 1990s. Proponents of the World Wide Web used a slew of educational techniques to educate the public, from simple metaphors, the information highway, browsers, surfing the web, to television broadcasts. Web3 isn't difficult, but it is different. Educational initiatives informing Web2 users of Web3 paradigms are vital for its success. I just don't think that that's going to work on Web3 like it did with Web2. Web3 more aligns with finance, the finance game. Web2 was more general pop culture, so you can, browsing, surfing, information highway. It's not that layman's with crypto. You have to have an understanding of finance, and that is the barrier, in my opinion. Ethereum.org contributes to Web3 education through our translation program, aiming to translate important Ethereum content to as many languages as possible. That's cool. Centralized infrastructure. The Web3 ecosystem is young and quickly evolving. As a result, it currently depends mainly on centralized infrastructure, GitHub, Twitter, Discord, etc. Many Web3 companies are rushing to fill these gaps, but building high-quality, reliable infrastructure takes time. A decentralized future. Web3 is a young and evolving ecosystem. Gavin Wood coined the term in 2014, but many of these ideas have only recently become a reality. In the last year alone, there has been a considerable surge in the interest in cryptocurrency, improvements to layer 2 scaling solutions, massive experiments with new forms of governance, and revolutions in digital identity. DIDS is going to be a big thing in the future. We are only at the beginning of creating a better web with Web3. But as we continue to improve infrastructure that will support it, the future of web looks bright. And then there's how can I get involved? And this is neat because it gives you a link to Ethereum wallets, and it allows you to find communities with Ethereum, explore different web apps. You can join a DAO. They have a lot of stuff here for you to get started in the Ethereum world. And you'll go through this and you'll learn, and you'll probably get hacked, and you'll lose your money, and you'll either get out of crypto entirely, or you may stumble across Cardano and end up where I am. So Ethereum, cool. I love them. They created a great thing. I have Ethereum. I use all of it. But EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine, an emulated version of Ethereum, brought down, more secure, and placed on different blockchains, EVM compatible blockchains. I'll make content. A Blue Shift, if you're into EVM, I talk about Blue Shift all the time. I have videos on it. That is EVM. That's something that we use. And I'm going to start probably exploring Polygon and making content to kind of bring everything together. I'm focused on DeFi. I'm focused on bringing normal people, everyday people that are curious enough into this. Or if you want to just observe and get the experience through me, that's fine as well. But I'm going to try to teach you along the way so that you understand the basic concepts of what all of this stuff is, just to get you to a place where you can follow along. And you can think on the things that are said, the things that you see, and ask questions so that you can get further understanding. That's my goal, to allow you to learn enough to ask more questions. I think if we can do that to the person that has, doubts about understanding all of this, or may get frustrated in dealing and hearing all of this stuff, I want to at least get you to a point where you feel comfortable enough to ask questions. So with that being said, if you do have any questions, put them in the chat, put them in the comments section. But in the meantime, thank you for checking out the channel. Make sure you hit that like, hit the share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.